So welcome everybody. Welcome. We're going to get started in just a moment. A number of people joining. So Natalie, how's it going?
Oh, so good. I'm going on vacation tonight, Nikki. So I'm just living and breathing the industry today.
Oh my goodness. Take me with you. Are you going somewhere warm?
I am going somewhere warm, which is
Oh,
nice. I know
wonderful.
I always talk to so many clients in places like Florida and Mexico who are used to the warmth, but here in
Yeah.
Vancouver we got to travel for it half the year.
Yeah. Yeah, I know this is true. Yeah, but it's getting warmer. Lighter, longer days.
It it's true. It's true.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. I'm going to give just a little bit of time. We're going to do a quick introduction to those that are just joining us, but we do have a jam-packed session for you today. So I'm going to kind of dive right in. So let's get started. So welcome. Thank you all for taking the time to join us. My name's Nicola. I'm here, part of the team at Operto, and I am going to go through a few housekeeping items before I kick things over and introduce you to Natalie. In terms of this session, we are recording the session. The recording link and the slide deck link will be sent to all of you at the end of today. So please, if you need any notes or anything, feel free to utilize those resources. During the session, we do have the Q&A chat, so please utilize that, say hello. I will be monitoring and going through that, and then we do have time at the end of the session to answer those live as well. And I hope please throw those questions in. Like, we love hard questions, so by all means. And before I kick things over, I just want to give a warm welcome to anyone that's part of the SDR Community Facebook group. So we have a wonderful partnership with that team, and it's wonderful to be able to kind of host and be a part of that group. If you have joined us today and you're not a part of the group, please go check it out. There are so many stories, tips, tricks, insights from those that are living and breathing your day to day. So thank you to the SDR community. All right, that's enough from me. I'm going to kick things over to Natalie. Natalie is one of our rockstar senior account executives and has just a wealth of knowledge in the industry and has a lot to kind of share with all of you today. So without further ado, Natalie, over to you.
Thanks, Nikki. And hello, everyone. I know there's rarely a slow day in your line of work, but especially given the fact we're heading into Easter weekend here and occupancy levels are probably quickly spiking, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hang out with us. In case you are trying to remember what you signed up for, I know this has been out for a couple weeks. We're going to cover best practices for housekeeping and maintenance, along with tips for strengthening owner relations. And then, as Nikki said, we've got a lot to get through, but our goal is just for you to get even one or two immediate takeaways or aha moments that you can put into practice for the upcoming season. And we welcome your questions. So I don't know about you, but I have a terrible memory. If they're in your head, just put them in the chat. We promise we'll get to them. If for some reason we do run out of time, we can also report back to you after today's webinar. So please, if as soon as they're popping into your head, chances are someone else has the same question, and we'd love to get that answered for you. So given the whole theme around operational excellence, should probably just share how exactly Operto ties into operational excellence. Our focus is on helping you deliver exceptional stays to every guest, every time, and ultimately helping make your operations easier through smart device integrations in our software solutions. Nikki, are you frozen? Oh, nope. Thanks. At the end of the day, it's about helping you amaze your guests and in turn drive great reviews. And we want to help make you and your owners more revenue. I'm sure you want the same. We know both those things are going to help you impress your owners. And then knowing how hard people in the space work, I cannot believe the stories I hear day in, day out, and also just the amount of hours you guys put in. We want to help you automate so that you can continue to scale and grow your business without burning out. At the end of the day, there are a lot of really good platforms that are going to help you process and manage bookings. So once that booking is actually made, that's when Aperto comes into the picture. So we plug into systems like your property management systems to help automate the guest stay right through from that pre-arrival stage all the way to the housekeeping and maintenance service side of things, which is where we'll be focusing our attention today. I will say we work with about 60 property management systems, but we also do have the ability to connect directly to iCals for things like Airbnb and VRBO direct booking calendars too. So just if as we're going through this, you think like, oh, that wouldn't work for me. I'm small or just starting out or only do direct bookings. Just know there's probably still a way that automation can help you, but happy to field any questions on compatibility in the chat for you as well. And ultimately, our solutions, and I swear I'm almost done talking about Operto, but it helps to have context on why the heck do these guys know what they're talking about. Our solutions do fit into the three buckets of guest, tech, and team. So access automation and this tech bucket you see here in the middle is where we started back in 2016 with our device automation specialization. But we've continued to build out other solutions to really help streamline that full guest journey, as you saw, and just help you get more benefits from having systems that talk to each other. This Aperto Guest and DAC is all about helping you ensure your guests are who they say they are and that they're well prepared for the stay. Obviously, we know you drown in frequently asked questions, so we want to help ease that burden and also help you generate more revenue from upsells. And then lastly, and most relevant to today's conversation, we're going to, of course, chat a little bit about Aperto teams, but we're also going to make sure that the suggestions we offer today are not specific to teams with some manual workarounds too. Teams, however, is our task management platform, really helpful for automating those operations, just ensuring greater quality assurance, better team communication, and ultimately giving you more insight into your properties and performance. Okay, take a breath. Probably going to be a busy weekend. Getting you ready for busy season. You're going to need it. I will say I hear every day from property managers that while they know housekeeping and maintenance is mission critical, it is just such a struggle to find and keep good people. And of course, guests seem to expect you all to be offering, five-star hotel service. So we're going to hopefully share some tips that will help you to feel like you can maximize preparedness and go in a little less anxious to the upcoming season. Now, given that clients' operations can vary so drastically, we do have a quick poll just to understand what everyone's cleaning team looks like for the purposes of today's chat. You should see that popping up on your screen shortly. And it's really just designed to let us know the sort of labor you're working with so we can offer the best suggestions for today's chat. So we'll give you a second to just get your vote in, and then we'll look and see what we're working with today. I always find this one so interesting, Nikki, because people are really transitioning too in the way they use their cleaning party. Wow, 45% of you actually have your own cleaning company or cleaning team. That's actually really powerful. So we work with a lot of clients that are intentionally needing to use third-party cleaning companies. So the fact that there's that many that have their own cleaning team is great. Obviously, it gives you that much more control. We've got about 7% working with 1099 contractors, and then it looks like a combination. And combinations are super helpful too, because when we look at how hard it is to get good people, sometimes while you might have a few good go-to people, you still know you're going to need those backup resources of working with third parties. So I think you'll definitely be able to take something away from today's discussion. So diving into best practices for cleaners. Okay, so good people are hard to find. We all know that. Turnover is inevitable. So you're going to need a way to account for getting new people up to speed, of course, as quickly as possible. So right now, for a lot of our clients, it is a slower season. So taking these months to actually build out resourcing is critical. Now, this can include maybe having one of your own internal cleaners document their tribal knowledge on specific owner preferences, home quirks, and other things a new hire would need to know. This can be especially helpful if you are needing to, for example, add those 1099s during certain months, or know that you're going to need to be leveraging a third-party cleaning company and don't want the owners to feel like there's, any difference in the quality of the clean. We are also a really big fan of video for anything that can show your standards with tutorials. I know I always hear that even certain owners will want the bed made a certain way, or there'll be those little quirks. So video is really helpful for that. And this can be saved as pinned resources on Slack, live on Google Drive, be on a WhatsApp. I know sometimes people have like a specific channel for each property. So even if you don't have a solution like Operto Teams, there's still ways that at least you can have that associated with each home. And of course, making it worth their while is a great way to help retain cleaners. I know this sounds like something that's easier said than done, but I have heard some really great ideas. One of them is clients will actually incentivize their cleaners based on 5-star guest reviews, give them either an extra amount per hour, depending how they're paid, or a flat fee for each 5-star guest review. If you are doing your own inspections or perhaps using a third-party company, inspection reports can also be a really great way to gauge performance and even create, friendly competition amongst financial incentives for those reviews. Now, I will say there's a bit of an inherent choice to tend to want to give as many jobs to whoever picks them up first or whoever's going to, text you back the fastest or answer the phone. The challenge we find with that is it's not always the person who's best suited for the job or who's going to do the best job. Because if they're super fast answering text, they might be super fast cleaning, but does that mean they're the best cleaner? So we do find being conscious on who you're rewarding with shifts or jobs can be a better strategy. So if you're actually offering more jobs to your top performing cleaners, even if they take a little longer to get back to you, that's going to help build up some loyalty. And then if they're seeing a variety of clients and homes, you're going to be in a better position to actually be capturing more of that business and loyalty from them. And lastly, if you're reading the slide here, you're probably thinking, digital tipping. We know it's a hotel thing, but it is becoming more popular in hotels, which does, while being a little more unorthodox, present an opportunity for short-term rentals. I think we've all had one of those trips where when we go to leave, we're like, it's a little messy, but such is life with kids or such is life with 8 people. So there are those times where you might feel like you want to leave a little extra something. At the end of the day, if this is strictly optional, there's a very little lift for you. And then even when you're advertising, trying to find cleaners in a tight market, it's one more opportunity for them to make money that chances are the property management company down the street is not offering. So if your cleaners are visiting a lot of different homes in your portfolio or others, especially, of course, for those of you working with cleaning companies or 1099 contractors, it is incredibly hard for them to remember your homes, your preferences, along with their other clients. So checklists are still critical. Now, we know checklists are, at the end of the day, easier to administer when you have your own cleaners and can create those expectations. But these don't have to be overly complex, but you still want to have something that's a reminder and accountability check. Often when I have clients that are hiring new staff, they'll intentionally do more complex checklists just to help the staff get used to the homes. And then once they've got that familiarity, they might simplify it. When possible, please keep this out of the closet. If I'm cleaning a home, I'm not running downstairs, checking the closet, then running back upstairs. People are not going to read it. If you can have that on their phone, it's going to be much easier reference and also a way to see if they're completing it. Now, yes, Teams has checklists, but at the end of the day, we know not everyone's going to be using a secondary software. So even if you had to do something basic like a Google form or something else, just a way that you can actively track completion is super helpful. We'd also recommend looking at creating guides with listing photos. This is going to help ensure that if you're working with, for example, a third-party cleaning company, they're sending someone to the home who's never been there, they're going to know what the guest is expecting upon arrival. It can be as simple as the previous guest reordered the furniture or the blinds are closed, hiding the ocean view. All those sorts of things matter. So giving cleaners the ability to know exactly what the guest is expecting to see and even having them take their own photos matching the listing can really help to confirm accuracy. Now, I'm sure we all love being past the pandemic expectations for cleanliness, but let's be honest, it's changed. People will forever expect more. I know this is something we've obviously seen such a shift to advertising, of course, online and even in confirmation emails as well. So while more expensive, providing commercial grade cleaning chemicals is ultimately going to help your team to work a lot faster and more effectively. And also consider giving them easy cleaning kits that they can, quickly take in from the car and not have to be doing several trips. We often hear that when you're trying to track supplies or have owners just, have their own cleaning supplies, it can be a huge pain to let them know, you're getting low on paper towel or you're low on Windex. So we recommend, if you have a way, just charging a small materials fee back to owners for the convenience. They're going to appreciate not knowing that they're needing to restock, especially if they're remote. And ultimately, it means that your cleaner is going to have that peace of mind they have everything they need. Now, of course, when we think about why cleaning is not the easiest job to recruit for, part of the reason is it's physically challenging. And so, any of those little things you can do to make it easier on cleaners go a long way. Consider something like a backpack vacuum or even supporting with like prepping linens and supplies for easy pickup. I know our linen packing reports and teams are a cult classic. But even having someone else handle the actual picking up of dirty linens and transferring them can really make your life easier. And centralized laundry, I would say, over the last year is something I've seen a huge shift to with our clients. Historically, they were doing laundry on site. You kind of got your set amount, you're at the home, you're hoping you can get through everything. It's just not realistic for a lot of larger homes. So considering how you might be able to actually take that piece out, save them the time while they're on site cleaning and help speed up those turnovers can be a huge benefit. And of course, there's a lot of companies that can specialize in supporting you with that too. Please say it with me. Dirty jobs and cleaning jobs do not mix. Um, I know even in our household, it's like someone does the garbage, someone does the dishes. Like there's very strict differentiation between dirty jobs and clean jobs. We do recommend having a specialized person to support on things like handling trash pickup or cleaning the barbecue. I know there's even companies that whole job is like catering to picking up and removing trash for vacation rentals. And what we find is if you've got these niche roles in place, it helps to make your people work more efficiently and again, speed up those turnovers. So one of our staff used to manage 150 properties, and she had one person whose whole job was cleaning barbecues. Now, I can't imagine that was an easy one to recruit for, I will say, but you can imagine the speed with which they could get through barbecues would be so much faster compared to a cleaner. And also, then if there are those tasks that like cleaners really hate doing, it's one more benefit of working with you versus some other homes. Now, this last one, I can't stress enough, and yet I hear both sides of the coin. So, we are big champions in using the same cleaners on the same home to build familiarity. That said, I have had clients that say to me, I don't like to do that because I find that my cleaners all have different strengths and I'd rather rotate them so that, they'll do better at cobwebs and this one does better at light bulbs or whatever. The whole goal of having checklists and that consistent quality assurance is that regardless of who's going to the home, they know what's expected. And then through photos and checks and balances like that, you're able to feel confident they're catching it. When you start to use the same cleaners on the same homes, what's going to happen is they're going to be a lot more likely to spot if something's broken or if it's been damaged by a guest. And we all know how hard it is to win guest disputes, not to mention they seem to be getting increasingly ridiculous and common. So having someone who's visited after the last guest, the current guest, and has time and date stamp photos of both can be the difference of you actually winning that claim and getting your money back. So less guesswork equals faster cleans. And ultimately, you can consider giving them cleans closer to their house and potentially grouping together those units. I know this is really easy to do in teams, but just in general, it helps them obviously work faster and save them time and money. So that was a lot about cleaning. Before we shift gears and start talking about maintenance, I am curious just to understand what the biggest maintenance challenge you're facing today is, or if all of these, hit home, feel free to select all of the above. This is why I rent, Nikki. I would never know how to actually address a maintenance challenge myself. So I have such appreciation for all those who do. All the above. Okay, yeah. Accounting for non-billed. Okay, interesting. So only about 7% you're actually struggling with the non-billed work. I hope that's because you are owning your worth and regularly sharing it. Keeping track of reported issues seems like you're doing a good job on that, which is wonderful. Preventive maintenance, but also all the above. Okay. Yeah. So I think we're going to cover all of those in the next couple of slides here, which is great because maintenance can be a beast, especially when you don't necessarily have those internal resources, as most people don't, or they have someone part-time or they have someone on call. Unless you're, a larger operation, it's really hard to have someone on regular payroll who you can call anytime and entrust. So this is actually where this piece on empowering your guests and cleaners to be self-sufficient, we think is really important. So I hear this all the time. Guests don't read, guests don't self-source information. That is absolutely true for a lot of guests. There's no denying it. But there are also those guests who would rather self-serve or see if they could fix something prior to reaching out, or just, simply impatient and don't want to have to wait. Those are the ones that we do want to try to empower with supplies and information. So if you use a digital guidebook, for example, this could involve having a section on FAQs for how to use things like the appliances and the hot tub so they don't call you thinking it's broken. I know even like remote controls confuse the heck out of me. Like any of those things where you're like, let's just do a tutorial can be helpful. Also, potentially adding a section on basic troubleshooting. So there's a lot of homes out there that, of course, have like, ability to sleep upwards of 10 people. We know those are also the ones that are most likely to, of course, have the breaker go when there's way too many blow dryers going simultaneously. Any sort of like easy fix or tutorial things you can put in, even things like where the breaker box is, are really helpful for your guests and also can let them know in advance that, oh, I should probably be careful how many blow dryers I plug in, or else I might have to go find the fuse box. I actually had one client whose properties were really spread out and in rural areas. So what they did was they put together troubleshooting guides for their cleaners. And then that way they weren't having to, call maintenance from over an hour away. And so as a result, if a cleaner actually was like fixing something or having to do something additional that was pretty basic, they would just pay them a little extra accordingly, which worked out really well for the cleaner. And then the more they started to notice those themes, the more guides they put together. So there's definitely ways to do that. If you do find, for example, you might have a more solid cleaning staff compared to maintenance crew, try to leverage. Now, having a locked cupboard with essential supplies can also be a good idea, again, especially if your properties are spread out or are in more rural areas. It gives you ability to provide those extra supplies for your guests, things like batteries, paper towels, light bulbs, etc. Obviously, guests realize things can come up, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that they're not showing up to a property that already has, a couple burned out lights. They won't want to change those. But if while I'm staying at a home, a light coincidentally burns out, that happens. If you can tell me, oh, there's actually light bulbs in this cupboard, here's the code, it's pretty straightforward and an easy ask. Or, of course, give the option to come. But a lot of guests will say, it's fine, I got it, no problem. Now, preventative maintenance is something obviously a lot of you noted. And at the end of the day, I think there's no debate that it's important. The big challenge is tracking it. So we find without having like a secondary software to your property management system, this is usually the first thing that's going to slip through the cracks. And partly because I don't know what the heck my bookings are going to look like in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So to try to put something in for a certain date and then have to move it nonstop is really just kind of setting me up for a lot of tedious rework. So regardless of if you're tracking it in Google Sheets or paper, you want to make sure you're still keeping track of what homes still need what. This is the air filter changers, the smoke detector batteries, the pest control, all those things. I will say Operto Teams does help with giving you the option of tasks automatically move around bookings so that they consistently stay on your radar and don't slip between the cracks. And of course, it is a competitive market, and let's be honest, owners in a lot of markets are also feeling the pinch with heightened competition. So in turn, they think that the guy down the street might be able to give them, a lower commission and make them more money. And that puts you guys in a really hard spot. And the reality is so often we're setting them up to actually underestimate the amount of work that goes into their home, in part because they don't see those things that are unscheduled or just done while you're coincidentally there or not billed to them on their owner statements. So you're going to want a way, regardless of if it's with teams, to actually make it a point to log all work, even the unscheduled property tasks, make notes of the receipts, set those future tasks up. You always got to think about, how am I going to show my full value? Because that can be the difference in those churn conversations of them understanding that you actually, have people going to the home about 3 times more than they probably suspected, fixing all those little things, dropping off supplies, and it's not just, resolving issues and fixing and having the cleans. So we've talked about cleaning, we talked about maintenance best practices. Now we're going to dive deeper into owner relations. Let's be honest, you're going to have those easygoing Eds and needy Neds, as I like to say. So we want to set expectations accordingly. Make it really clear, what you're going to be actually providing, for example, cleaning supplies, versus what they're required to provide. And then also giving them a clear, trackable way to know when things need replacement. So maybe there's a supply flag, for example, on, toilet paper or something in the home that's going to need their attention. Got to have a clear, consistent process, and also then be able to look back and say, we let you know on X date. Operto Teams does have a self-serve, fully automated dashboard that a lot of our clients use in combination with their property management system, in part because it can be customized to specific owners and isn't like a one-size-fits-all view. So then if you have owners that maybe only care about seeing issues and future tasks, or you have others that are much more micromanaging and need to see completed checklists in order to be able to sign with you, you've got those tools to provide the right amount of detail while making sure you're not creating more questions than answers, because I know that's also a piece too. We will say as well, being clear, of course, on communication for things like issue resolution processes, expense levels, pretty straightforward, but just making sure you've got that pre-approval and alignment is so critical to reduce friction and build trust. And then by having a way to instantly alert them when issues arise, you're going to avoid disputes. This really helps as well, because then if you've got a process in place to be able to pull something up and say, listen, we fixed the fridge 6 times in the last year, cost you $600. It's time to just buy a new one. Whatever you can do to help give those informed recommendations with like evidence-based facts and give them that visibility is going to help make your job easier. And at the end of the day, for many of your owners, it's still a home. They want to enjoy it themselves. So having those owner lockups can really help reduce stress. We get it. They might have some nice breakables or personal belongings and they want their home to look its finest, but guests don't want the liability in a lot of cases. And at the end of the day, you don't want them putting out anything that they would feel upset if they had to replace or lost. So farewell, traditional family heirlooms. You can be locked up and brought out for those owner stays, but let's prioritize safekeeping. And when we're thinking about building that owner trust, a big piece that's often overlooked is the start of the journey. So owner trust starts with who you're letting into the property. Most property managers are no longer just booking on Airbnb. They're diversifying. We've seen an increasing number, of course, of short-term rentals going on sites like Whimstay, Booking.com, Expedia, which is great. Absolutely. Diversify your booking channels, maximize occupancy, target new markets. Just don't forget that those guests have not uploaded ID. Those guests have not been screened or provided, a selfie for verification. So you do want to allocate for having some supplementary verification in place. There are other things you can do if you haven't maybe had a bad experience, you don't think that's necessary. Things like over 25 age limits, clear occupancy restrictions to reduce party risk are really helpful. We also love noise monitoring. And what I think is so interesting about noise monitoring is it's really looked at as a reactive tool. So you think, oh, people have a party and I know, and then I can send them a text to, quiet down or shut it down. But the reality is a lot of our clients find noise monitoring actually helps them to attract better quality guests, because if they put in their listing or their confirmation email that they use noise monitoring, it will actually turn off those guests who wouldn't want to deal with something like that or who aren't looking for a quiet stay. And of course, well, it should go without saying, please do not use static codes on locks or lockboxes. It's not just about the risk of break-ins, although of course that's important from a liability perspective if you're trying to get insurance back. This is even just about not surprising your next guest. Let's say you offer an early check-in to a guest and someone forgets something and tries to go back to retrieve it. We've heard stories even internally within our office of having like a stranger walk into your room. So please, unique access codes, reduce liability, good for insurance. We love them, even if you're doing them manually. And at the end of the day, retaining owners is going to come down to money, not just, keeping those expenses in check, but also showing your thinking creatively about how to accommodate whatever it is guests are looking for. So guests appreciate recommendations that you're offering. You're probably already being proactively asked if you're not sharing them. So anything you can do to make it easy for them to build on to their trip, whether it's even just setting up affiliate programs with like Viator, Get Your Guide that immediately get you commission for referrals, or if you're a larger operator, set up local partnerships where you can offer, promo codes or affiliate landing pages with partners. Any sort of like added perk they see of going through you goes a long way. And at the end of the day, when we're thinking about revenue, upsells is an important piece of that. And I will say the most common top selling upsells are early check-in, late checkout, and mid-stay cleans. All of these are going to be that much easier if you have the appropriate systems in place. And spoiler, a lot of owners will actually just let you keep the revenue from that because you're dealing with the headaches of coordinating it. I've even seen people who will actually incentivize their housekeepers to be like, hey, if you can handle this early check-in, we'll give you $5 of it, and they love it. So a lot that can be done there. Again, all easier once you have a bit of this off your plate, working with more automation. But hopefully that gets the wheels turning. So as we wrap up with the webinar, just before we jump into Q&A here, we got one last poll. Just curious, looking towards summer season, what is the number one priority that you have for operational excellence? We need the Jeopardy music, Nikki. I don't know how we do
I
that, but we
know.
should really figure it out for
I
polls.
know. That's definitely an ad. I want to give people enough time because I'm seeing them come through. All right, there you go.
Get access automation. Yeah. So quite a range, which is really interesting. And I think that's because usually people start building their tech stack so modular, or something isn't a problem because you only have a couple smart locks, for example, but then you start getting more and it becomes a bigger issue, or you do start diversifying booking channels heading into a new season. So just if ever you guys have, questions, of course, about any of that, feel free to send myself an email or to reach out through our website. But we're happy just to kind of point you in the right direction with some considerations that you might want to think of as a neutral third party here. And I see we've got some Q&A going, so excited to answer some questions here.
Yeah, this is great. Natalie, thank you so much. That was awesome. I always learn something whenever we get together and go through these kind of sessions. And just kind of on your topic of reach out, have conversations, that STR Facebook group, like that is a great resource tool to have support, whether it's not through a provider, but just through those that are in the trenches with you on your day to day. We love having these conversations, but it's also just a wonderful community that's super engaged. So definitely check them out. Let's dive in a little bit. We did have a question come up as you were just doing a general overview on Operto, Natalie.
Mhm.
The question that came through was, how much does it cost? And this is not my wheelhouse, so over to you.
Yeah, for sure. So the way we price is each of our solutions is modular, and we do that because obviously some clients might not have, smart locks on all their homes, or they might need an operational software for all units. So we essentially price per solution, per home, per month. The more solutions you add, the better discounts you get, the more properties you have, the better prices you get. So there's a lot of moving parts, but we can always clarify if you want to reach out and let us know kind of how many units you have, what solutions are of interest, more specifically into pricing. I will say, just for reference, since Teams was the primary thing we talked about today, our Operto Teams pricing is listed at $7 per unit per month. That includes all the housekeeping, maintenance, staff notifications, owner dashboards, etc. And then obviously, if you have other solutions or lots of properties, then it can go down from there. What do I
Awesome.
do if a cleaner doesn't show up? Well, that seems to be like the most common thing I'd say that we hear about, where I know I've had demos get pushed a lot where someone's like, "I'm sorry, I'm frantically cleaning a home I didn't expect to clean." So, couple solutions, really depends on the size of your team. Um, I will say having insight into task starts is critical, because if you're simply waiting to hear when a task is done and don't have insight to know that the cleaner started the clean, you're going to be a lot further behind than if you're getting notified that a task hasn't been started and say it's, 10 minutes past the scheduled start time. So Aperto Teams does offer notifications for all of those sorts of things. So you can tell when a task is completed. Even without Aperto Teams, if you've got access codes and your cleaner has a code, you could at least potentially track access logs. We also have the ability to send notifications when a cleaning started based on cleaner codes. The whole goal is that you're able to know as soon as possible rather than waiting for them to text you it's been done. That's going to give you a lot more flexibility to either shift around your schedule so that someone can go there first, depending on, of course, your turnover times, and then at least potentially, be adding that extra job later in the day, but the one that isn't a same day turnover. So that would be my biggest thing, regardless of how you build it into your processes. Have a notification when they start work and the visibility to see if something's running behind schedule.
I love that. And just for everyone, I saw several questions come through for the link to the Facebook group. I've shared it in the chat and shared it directly to those that were asking. We have a member here that has asked a number of questions, Natalie. We've kind of
Great.
covered the pricing plan, but on the latter half, I love the question of how is it possible to add certain following elements of upselling into a Perto. If you can kind of maybe dive into a little bit more into like our upsell features, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course. So we have a couple different options actually when it comes to doing like guest communication and upsells. We acquired DAC in December. Some of you might know that. And they are specifically designed for upsells. So they allow you to choose all of, to your point, photos, videos, links, and visuals amongst all the different upsell options, and also to trial different options. So I have some clients who, might want to rent beach equipment. I have other clients who might, for example, if they're more villa properties, want to offer like personal chef services. We can link out to any of those sorts of things. We can also integrate with programs like Viator super easily to have those pre-populated recommendations. But what's great about that is, depending on the property management system you're using, we can also check your availability to even do proactive offers. So reminders around early check-ins, late checkouts, stay extensions, all of those ones that we know are most likely to be sold. We don't have AI yet. It's absolutely something that we're looking at. But as you know, there's nothing more frustrating sometimes than having a conversation with a chatbot. And we find a lot of guests don't quite have the patience it takes to be willing to wait for an immediate answer. So that's certainly something that, as we continue to build out even more messaging functionality, we're looking at. Recommended
Awesome.
smart locks. Good
Yeah,
question.
Dylan.
Yeah, so 29 key lodge in the foothills that does not have cell service. Okay, so really good question, Dylan. So some access providers do use cell service, others use Wi-Fi. Aperto does use Wi-Fi. We have lock recommendations that can schedule codes, up to 2 days before, so that you've got time if the Wi-Fi goes down to make sure that that code's scheduling successfully. We also have locks that work fully offline that need no Wi-Fi or cell service, called Igloo home locks. Usually what we recommend depends on kind of the style of lock you need. We are Yale's largest commercial integrator partner for North America, but the end of the day, we are a neutral third party with hardware. We have a lock room here in our office that is stacked with locks of all brands and types. So if you want to send us over any photos by email of kind of what the current doors look like and some more details, we're always happy to offer suggestions on some compatible hardware that we think would work well for you. But at the end of the day, you can always buy it, wherever you want. But then we can at least let you know when you're thinking about automating what additional pieces you might need, whether it's a Yale Access upgrade kit or a Wi-Fi gateway, for example.
Wonderful. Awesome. How do you manage cleaner time tracking in areas that don't have internet service? Great question.
Very good question. So interestingly enough, this comes up a lot. We have clients in places like Hawaii and rural areas. Aperto Teams pre-downloads up to 5 tasks, but you can manually download more. And the time tracking actually works as soon as you reconnect to service to be able to say, this job took this amount of time. I personally find that that's likely the easiest option. We've had clients that will try to use other time tracking apps or have them manually do it in their phone and submit invoices. But what I like about our time tracking is, especially if you've got like some new cleaners or maybe you haven't quite built up the trust, you can also track the map location of where they were when they said they started and completed task to make sure that if they're time tracking or getting paid by the hour, they're not trying to say it took them 90 minutes when in fact they just forgot to log out at 60.
That's great.
Is the
Yusra has a great question. Yeah, is the pricing structure for lock integration with PMS based on a per lock per month model? What's kind of your rough
Yeah.
estimate now?
Yeah, for sure. So our access pricing just on its own, bundled with no other solutions, is about $10 per lock per month. If you have additional locks on the property, they can go down in price. And of course, we can also sync up common doors or codes. We've actually got some funky things we can do even with apartments with intercom access. So usually we like to look at it as kind of like, what are the needs for each specific building? And then build in, of course, if there's savings for like staff only doors or those sorts of things, we can do that too. Where can we check out pricing plans? Honestly,
I'm
the best
sending that
option
link.
is definitely to just reach out, because then if we know how many units you're looking at, how many locks you're looking at, we'll give you the most accurate pricing. But typically, like our guidebooks start between kind of $6 and $9 a month, depending on the upsell functionality that you're looking at. As I said, access is about $10. Teams is about $7, and verification really changes depending on like the extent of the checks and balances you need, and also number of reservations.
Awesome. All right, we've
Maria,
got time for another question. We're
I love
wrapping up. I
this. You guys
love
are
it.
keeping me on my toes. This
Yeah.
is energizing. So it's interesting. I ask our customer service team about this because sometimes, of course, on the sales side, people will be like, I'm really worried about the cost of batteries. Rechargeable batteries we do find don't work well. That said, for people who are worried about battery life, so you can actually use, for example, like a Yale Access upgrade kit, which is like a bridge that plugs in and talks to the Wi-Fi module in the door. Something like that saves on battery better than just having like a Schlag on code or a Yale lock with only the Wi-Fi module. So we do find with something like the bridge and gateway, it can take about 4 to 6 months before you need to change out those batteries. And then I've heard from other people sometimes if they just have the batteries directly in the lock, of course, it can take up like 3 to 4 weeks. So that's something to consider there. Intercoms, yeah. Dieter, so intercoms, as long as it's essentially the kind of intercom that if you go up, my apartment's actually switching to this right now, so I should know this. If it's able to call a phone number and then you're able to buzz in from your phone by, for example, hitting, 6 or 9, we can automate it. So we actually have a number of different ways to work with intercoms, but the whole goal is for those apartment guests, they're essentially able to like dial a number and enter their same access code that they'd be using on the door. Super slick, gets rid of those ugly lock boxes outside, and is just a lot more streamlined for them as well. So happy to reach out and share more on that if relevant. Don't hesitate to get in touch. Sneak peek at more charge automation. Honestly, when it comes to doing competitive comparisons, like every company has its own strengths and weaknesses. We usually find it's so much easier to just set up a follow-up call because if we can understand what you love, what's missing for you, what you're trying to accomplish, it's going to allow us to give you a way better understanding than me providing some generic talk track because charge automation is a great company too for things like verification. So please feel free to reach out, set up a call, and we can go a lot deeper into what we'd actually suggest transparently for your unique needs. How to save the battery of locks. Yeah, of course, Maria. So different locks have sometimes external bridges or gateways. Like Yale locks can have a Yale Assure upgrade kit, which is essentially a plug-in bridge and then the Wi-Fi module that goes into the lock. We find this combination helps to reduce the battery usage and help those last a lot longer, like up to 4 to 6 months. Whereas, for example, just a Wi-Fi module being in like a Yale lock or a Schlage encode tends to drain the lock faster than having that supplementary bridge. So if you have any other questions about that, happy to help. But I think it's called the Yale Access Upgrade Kit is what we find not only gives you the best connection at the door, but also helps to preserve the batteries.
Wonderful. All right, everyone, we are at time. Awesome questions. This is so wonderful to see you all highly engaged. Like Natalie said, please send us an email. Her email is listed at the bottom of this slide. You can also go onto our website, submit a form, and a member of our team will reach out right away. We love to get into the weeds with you and just learn more. Every single conversation we have is so iterative, and it really helps to define where we're going and what products we want to build and product features. So thank you very much. Jacobo, we've got one more if you were to open a hotel. Natalie, I know we love this because we also serve the hotel industry. Do you want to answer him quickly?
Yeah, it depends on what the building requirements are as far as if they need mortise locks or if they need like residential. I know a lot of old motels can kind of get away with residential. Usually we say it comes down to your goals. If clients are wanting to offer, for example, both mobile key as well as access codes, we'd suggest Salto KS. If budget's an issue, but they still want to have, for example, like staff fobs and codes, TT locks are great. Otherwise, I love Yale just because they've been in the market a long time and they've got such a range of lock types. But we can always offer specific suggestions for each project depending on like the type of clientele you're targeting and also what's on the doors.
Awesome. Wonderful, Natalie. Appreciate all of your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedules. We hope you enjoy a wonderful long weekend. And if you're heading into your busy season, best of luck. Feel free to chat with us. And we look forward
And
to
happy Easter.
upcoming sessions. Yeah, there's plenty more. So please, by all means, join us again soon. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.